Hey guys, before we get into Mitch's Guns N' Roses special tonight on One with Mitch Lafon, I want to remind you that you can support Mitch directly with a PayPal donation. His PayPal account is mitchminute@aol.com. Send him a donation, show him some love. Also, check out talkingmetaldigital.com. Talking Metal Digital is a podcasting family that includes Talking Metal, One with Mitch Lafon, Mars Attacks, and Talking Rock. We also have a live stream on Live 365. Check us out. Now, here's Mitch.
This is One.
Welcome back to another episode of One, and I'm your host, Mitch Lafon. Of course, it is brought to you by the Heavy Montreal Festival that takes place August 9th and 10th at Parc Jean Drapeau in Montreal, Canada. And this year features performances by Metallica, Slayer, Offspring, Lamb of God, Anthrax, Twisted Sister, and of course many more. For more about Heavy Montreal, visit www.heavymontreal.com. And this episode, we are talking with Gilby Clarke, who was, of course, in Guns N' Roses, and Craig Duswald. Now, you might not know that name, but Craig was Axl Rose's assistant in the early 90s. And this week, I figured let's get somebody who was there. So as a co-host, it is Alan Niven. Good day, Alan. How are you?
I'm doing really well, Mitch. It's always a pleasure to be with you. You're the world's great stealth journalist. You have this demeanor of being the nicest guy in the world, and you come with the hardest questions. Perfect journalism.
Isn't it, though? It's stealth. It's very stealthy.
Yeah, and that's a hell of a bill you've got for Heavy Montreal. That's going to be quite a bill.
Yeah, that's going to be a fantastic bill. There's about 60 bands coming for Heavy Montreal, and at some point you should come up and have a look, because it's out on an island. So behind the main stage is the port of Montreal, and you see the St. Lawrence River. And it's quite spectacular, I have to say. It really is spectacular.
That's definitely something I'd love to do in the future. Yeah. And if it's on an island, then you wouldn't have to worry about Axl leaving the stage and leaving the gig.
No. Well, of course, you'd have to worry about him getting to the gig, but that's another. But, jokes aside with Axl, I've seen, the new version of the band with Bumblefoot and Richard and all that. And they've been starting at 10 o'clock sharp. I mean, the last 2 or 3 shows I've seen, they started at 10 o'clock sharp. Now, I know you go to a show and you hope that they start at 9:30 or at 9 or at... Listen, 10's not so bad.
Well, obviously somebody in that camp woke up to something I woke up to a long time ago. And they probably put up production notices that say the gig starts at 4 p.m.
Yeah, see, that's the way to do it. So
that's the way to do it.
But I interviewed Gilby Clarke recently, and he's talking about this tour that he's going on with Quiet Riot. Now, by the time Gilby joined the band, were you still part of the management team, or had you already moved on?
Well, forgive me for putting my feathers in a line here, but management team is probably not the right way to term it. I was the manager of the band at the time.
Okay.
Gilby, I met briefly. He basically, as the door was revolving, he was shooting in one side as I was shooting out the other.
Right.
The same with Matt Sorum. But I bumped into Gilby a couple of times, and I got to say, he's a guy I really, really like. I really like his personality and his attitude, and I like the feel that he plays with. He's got that real chop and syncopation that comes, in the long line from Keith to Izzy to Ronnie Wood. They've all come from that particular block, which I find incredibly appealing.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're very partial to what Izzy did with the band, but given the situation that Gilby was put in, coming in to replace, I think he really did a stand-up job. I mean, it could have gone a lot worse. I mean, he could have just crumbled under all the pressure and all the drama. No, he came in and he played the songs.
I think he did a brilliant job because it's always hard to step into those kind of shoes.
Yeah.
And that was not the easiest of social environments, shall we say, to fit into. So for him to be able to fit both on and off stage tells you what you need to know about Gilby. He's a cool guy. He's a cool cat.
He really is. So why don't we take this time and actually listen to what Gilby had to say, talking about the tour he's doing with Quiet Riot. He talks about working with Rockstar Supernova and Slash's Snake Pit. So let's sit back and let's enjoy Gilby Clarke. Here with Gilby Clarke. How you doing, Gilby?
I'm doing great. It's a good day.
Good day, good day. So the big news this year is you're going out on tour with Quiet Riot and I think Faster Pussycat for some of the dates, right?
Yes, I am. Excited about it, too.
So who's going to be part of your band?
Over the last few years, I've been playing as a trio,
Okay.
three-piece. And I have E.J. Curse, who was in a band called Silent Rage quite a few years back.
Yeah, I remember them.
Troy, you come on. And
I do.
Troy Patrick Farrell is playing drums.
That's in, and I know Troy Patrick Farrell too. He's played with White Lion. He's what else has he done? Hookers and Blow.
Exactly. Yeah, he's been in a lot of different LA projects, that have gone out.
Band called
we've been
Dragon.
playing together for a few years now. We've been on a pretty good roll of dates. Summer tours, Europe, all that kind of stuff.
So what gets you back on the road? I mean, other than touring, what have you been doing recently?
What always keeps me busy is, it's always between live dates and producing bands. I have a recording studio. So I go back and forth. It's like sometimes the studio business is keeping me busy, and when it slows down, I'm lucky enough that I can go out and, just do some solo dates. The only thing about the live dates is you got to kind of plan it, pretty far in advance. It doesn't just happen within a week. But I produced a new band called Hotel Diablo that's got Alex Grossi and Rick Stitch.
Okay.
Alex actually plays guitar in Quiet Riot.
Yeah.
I did a couple, actually mixed a couple records for that band, The Alarm, that have been coming out over the last couple of years. We did 3 records at once, and he's been releasing them as time goes by.
Yeah, no, I like that Hotel Diablo project. Alex does great work, and of course he does all his booking of shows and stuff like that. But so let's look at some of the bands you've played with over the years. You played with Heart.
Yep.
And you were known for Guns N' Roses and the sort of wild and crazy heavy metal scene and stuff. How was it playing with Nancy and Ann?
Well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Ann Wilson is one of the greatest rock singers of all time.
Yeah.
And still now, she sings as good now as she did, back in the 70s and 80s. Nancy is an incredible guitar player. I mean, once again, she's known more for her acoustic work, but she's just a phenomenal guitar player. And Mike Inez, that plays in Alice in Chains, played with Heart on and off, and he's actually the one who brought me in.
Okay.
Mike and I played together in Slash's Snake Pit. Mm-hmm. We made the record together, and even though he didn't do any live dates with us, we did a lot of tracking together. So he was doing the tour, and he was the one who brought me in to play with the sisters.
Quickly speaking of Slash's Snake Pit, the band the band Slash ran off afterwards and did Velvet Revolver. How come you weren't involved with that project?
You know what? I get asked that a lot, and
you still don't know?
I'm just guessing like everybody else. But I don't know. I mean, in all reality, I'm not the first guitarist in Slash's Rolodex. Right. And at that time when they were doing that, we all hadn't seen each other in a while. We all go through our lives where, you hang out with fellow band members or friends and things like that. And at that time, I really hadn't seen the guys in probably a good year or two. So I was just like everybody else. I didn't know anything about the project, as they were building it. On the other side, I don't even know if it is something I'd be interested in. I mean, I have no problem playing rhythm guitar in Guns N' Roses. I mean, it's a big band, and I really love the music. I love the direction of the band. But I was before I got in Guns, and I was afterwards, my own guitar player. And I've actually, don't know whether I would have accepted a gig or not. That's all, don't know. But, I probably, would have just preferred to stay on my own at that time.
Stay on your own at the time. The other band that you worked with, Rockstar Supernova, you had Tommy Lee and you had Jason Newsted, and of course before the band got out on the road, Jason backed out and there was a claim of some kind of injury. How much of that was real and how much of it was just good PR? What was the actual story?
I got, and this is all honesty, I got the same story everybody else had got.
Okay.
I have not spoken to Jason since that went down. Obviously when I heard about the injury, I dropped him a phone call. Hey, are you okay? What's going on? And I never heard from him. Obviously Jason wasn't happy with what was going on at that time.
Right.
I think all of us went into it with the best intentions, and myself, Tommy, definitely were excited about, starting a new band and trying a new project and, moving on into the new era and doing something new. It didn't always work out the way that we planned. Yeah, the TV show was fun. I had a blast on the show. I learned a lot from the producers, but being in the band was hard because a lot of people knew all of us from obviously being in very heavy rock bands. And, the band wasn't a hard rock band. I could say it was a rock band, but it was, definitely a little more on the modern side than it was, kind of on the classic hard rock that we all were a part of.
Yeah, I think they were trying to make it more sort of middle of the road so that it would appeal to the widest audience, right?
Well, I got to tell you, people kind of give us a little bit more credit than we should, but we didn't even think, all that stuff didn't go into play. We didn't have those meetings. We really... myself and Tommy sat down and talked about, all of our influences. We had a lot of things in common when we both were, were big Cheap Trick fans.
Yeah. And
we, more than anything, we just really wanted to start a new band, with a new sound, even, Tommy has a specific drum sound. I play guitar a certain way. We did want to try some new things, and it wasn't more about, being, current as far as charting and stuff like that. It really was just trying to do something new. We just didn't want to play it safe, I guess is the answer.
Yeah, you just mentioned Cheap Trick, a band that I love. On your blues EP, you covered He's a Whore. What was that like for you to actually get to cover that song? And what does Cheap Trick mean to you? And why aren't they in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Well, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame doesn't always get it right, first of all.
Well, they never, barely ever get it right, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They probably get it wrong more than they get it right.
Yeah.
But the thing about, I honestly don't know. Cheap Trick is just kind of one of those bands that they really fly under the radar, but do you really know any musician, critic, or music fan that says that they don't like them? They're a great band.
They really are.
For myself, I saw them. It was the summer I moved from Ohio to California. I had saw Kiss in Cleveland that year, and when I got to California, I actually caught Kiss again, and Cheap Trick was opening on the California show.
Wow.
And that was a band. I saw that band, and I go, oh my God, I love every song they're playing, and I went out the next day and I bought the record.
Yeah, they're a great band, and the fact that they still put out these great albums is remarkable after, 45 years or whatever they've been doing it now?
Exactly, and never seen them play a bad show. It's just incredible. Obviously, I don't know how they feel about, the whole Hall of Fame thing, but, do they really need it at this point? I was a part of all that stuff with Guns, and it didn't change anything.
Yeah, how was your experience at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Because there was, of course, a lot of controversy around it. Axl wrote a letter, and he said he wouldn't go, and did it end up being a pleasant experience for you personally?
You know what? I got to tell you, I had the time of my life, and it was one of my favorite experiences with the guys. Okay. Once, Axl had made that decision, it kind of lifted a dark cloud over our heads, I think everybody was, I can't use the word excited to see if he would show up or not, but I think everybody was ready to deal with it. It's like, look, if he comes, we're going to deal with it. We're all adults. We've gone through a lot in our lives, and we can handle it. When he decided not to show up, I mean, really it was a bunch of guys that we all see each other all the time anyway. I mean, we haven't played those songs together in a long time. I mean, that took a little, little bit of getting used to, but used to as far as the fact it was the night before at 1 o'clock in the morning. We got together, we jammed through them, and played them the next day. Rented gear, all that kind of stuff, and I actually thought it went really well.
So let's look at Guns N' Roses for a second. How exactly did you end up in the band? Where did they find you? How did you end up on stage on that tour?
Well, I had, the LA scene at that time was a pretty tight-knit community.
Right.
All of us had played shows together. I mean, even though, bands like Jane's Addiction was really a different scene than Guns N' Roses. I was in a band called Kill for Thrills. We all really played the same venues, and we all knew each other. So it wasn't even that far-fetched, like if you were in that LA circle. So, when we had all heard the rumors at that time that Izzy was leaving the band, and I called my friend Josh Richmond, who was working with the band at that time, and said, hey, put my name in the hat. And the next day I got a call from Slash, and he said, hey, you know what, why don't you come down and play with us? I came down, I played a couple songs with the guys, I came down the next day, and then he basically said, hey, learn all 50 songs because we're leaving next week. And that's the way it went down.
Was it a sometimes frustrating experience knowing that the lead singer was, sitting in the hotel ordering room service when the show was already an hour late?
Yes, look, of course, that was a frustrating period. I mean, it was frustrating in the fact that there was nothing we could do about it. We were completely powerless.
Right.
Obviously, you've heard all of us come out, in the past all saying, look, it wasn't our choice. We would have handled things differently had we had the power to do it, but we didn't. And we did the best that we could. But with that being said, that really was such a small part of all the great things the band was accomplishing at that time. I mean, this was in the early 90s. Grunge was taking over and knocking rock and roll, right off, or hard rock, right off the charts and right off of, MTV and concert business. But Guns was standing strong. I mean, we were headlining, stadiums, when all this was going on. So, we were playing in countries that bands had never played before. Nobody went down to South America back then. No one went, by the Eastern Bloc. We were doing a lot of things that bands had never done before. And so it was exciting. And yeah, they were all, with anything, you're going to, there's bad, good, and ugly, and, the tardiness was a hard part to deal with, but we got through it.
Let me talk about one experience I had in particular, because I live in Montreal.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And
well, that was a rough day.
Yeah, August 8th, 1992. I was there, and recently I spoke to a gentleman named Craig Duswalt, who was Axl's assistant.
Oh, yeah, I know Craig.
And he was talking about that event, and he sort of blamed everybody else. It was a fan who threw a bottle. It was the venue. What's your take on what really went down on the famous Riot Day?
Well, I mean, my take on it was, I really do think that Axl got a raw deal in that. I mean, there's a lot of things you can say about him, and there's a lot of things he needs to be responsible for. Mm-hmm. And that one wasn't one of them. I mean, I stood right next to him, and I remember the conversation like it was yesterday. He very calmly and very rationally asked me, how are you doing? And I told him, I go, things are fucked, man. I can't hear my amp. I can't hear the monitors. I can't hear Matt. I go, I don't know what to do. And we kept going song by song. We played a couple more songs, kept getting better. I honestly don't know who made the decision to pull the plug, mm-hmm. but it was definitely, the band was having a hard night, and it kind of felt like one of those days of, you know what, let's call it a night and let's make up for it at some other point. I mean, it's one of those things that was almost like out of our control.
What was the news coming back from the Metallica camp? Because I as far as I know, Guns N' Roses wasn't in the venue when James went up in flames.
Yeah.
What did you hear? When did you hear it? Was there any let's get to the venue quicker? Absolutely.
I was in my hotel room and I got a call from I don't remember who, but probably the tour manager saying, explaining what happened. And you got to understand when you get that phone call, you're not really thinking about the gig. You're thinking about James. I mean, that was
as you should be.
Oh my God, is he okay? What's happening? And there were no answers at that time. And this was all before cell phones, so we didn't get all the information as quickly. And he basically said, "Look, it would be a great thing if we could get to the venue as quickly as possible, get on stage, and get going because things are going to get rough if we didn't." And I just remember all of us, downstairs in the cars and ready to roll. I mean, I don't remember all the little particulars, but I do remember the band kind of standing as one together and saying, "Let's do this."
Yeah. I remember particularly thinking, I don't want my car to get destroyed. I got to go home. what a fun night
I feel for you because I remember when it was going down. We were stuck at the venue during the whole fracas, but there were ways of us to kind of sneak out. And I firsthand went out and I looked and I saw what was happening. I saw the kiosks being destroyed. I saw the cop cars overturned. I mean, just like the people that paid for a ticket, I was thinking the same thing. I hope nobody got hurt. I mean, obviously, we're all going to share in the blame. So, we were more worried about, the people and what was going to happen at that time.
Yeah, because it's funny. It was my, I think, second show, and I had seen GNR open for, I think it was Aerosmith, was it? In Saratoga, New York, and somebody threw a bottle at Axl, and he hopped into the audience, and then you walked off. And then this happened. I'm like, man, I'm not doing so good with this band. Maybe it's me.
I mean, I could see how you could take a personal effect towards it.
It's like,
I mean, that's also the other thing is I do feel at that time that fans also look. I accept my responsibility and my part in it, but I do think that the fans kind of felt, like they, there was no law back then. They hey, the band was reckless, so we're going to be reckless. So I do think that Montreal, out of all of them, was one of those that was shared responsibility.
Yeah. They went a little crazy. I took the high road. I ran to the car as fast as possible and drove it home so it wouldn't get destroyed. Let's get back.
They're probably the smartest decision you could make.
You know what? I don't regret it in the least bit. I had a unscathed car. I didn't have anything burnt. I didn't get any stones thrown on my head.
Yeah.
You know what? As far as I saw the riot on TV, quite frankly. So
there you go. There you go. Yeah, like I said, you didn't miss anything being involved in the middle of it.
Oh no, and I don't regret it at all. One of my favorite songs ever is a song called "Tijuana Jail," which is one of yours. You recently re-recorded, or you put out a video with just the three guys playing it. Is that a sign of more to come? Are you going to start revisiting some of the things, or just simply why was this video redone? And is the song redone, or is it just sort of a lip sync?
Yeah, we redid the song.
Okay.
We redid the song and did a video. Basically, more than I have some dates coming up this summer, and I'm not going to be putting out a full record. So I decided what I'm going to do is, right before the dates start, I am going to release a new song and a new video.
Okay.
So prior to that, I just kind of wanted to, shake everybody up and remember that I'm still alive and still playing guitar out there. So somebody had told me that that record that I did, my first solo record, Punch Out Guitars, is 20 years old. So I thought it might be kind of cool. Hey, you know what? Let's do a version of Tijuana Jail, basically the live version that we do, and let's do a video. I mean, it's easy to do videos, so that's kind of what we did. We actually have done 3 old songs, and I'm going to kind of release them, every couple months. We did Wasn't Yesterday Great, which is off of The Hangover, and we did an old Kill for Thrill song I have called Motorcycle Cowboys.
Yeah, I have the entire collection. I mean, I have all those early albums, and I even have the Candy stuff. So,
oh my God!
Yeah.
Don't have to mention that in public again.
But listen, they were all good bands.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that we should mention?
No, I mean that is all of it. I mean, look, any musician, hopefully we're going to have a long career and we grow. And that's all I'm trying to do. I mean, look, I'm a guitarist first and foremost. I mean, I always thought of, singing, as a secondary thing, more out of, hey, if nobody else is going to do it, I'll do it. And that's really how I started singing. But I'm a guitar player. I would always prefer to be in a band. But, as time has gone by, I started noticing that it's hard to start a band. I mean, most of the musicians that I respect and that I want to work with, are in their, established bands and really don't want to move from them. And how can you blame them? I'm in a unique situation because, I came into a successful band. I mean, I left my band to join this band, so I can't go back to that, and I can't go back to Guns N' Roses. So, I'm kind of stuck in the middle there, and I'm not asking for, sympathy or empathy. It's just the situation I'm in. So I'm making the best of it. If I'm not playing guitar for somebody, then, I'll write my own songs and I'll do my own dates and play with my buddies. My bass player and drummer in my band, we ride motorcycles together. Last year, we rode our motorcycles from Los Angeles to Sturgis, played 5 shows, and then rode them back.
Wow! And of course, you're also doing the producing.
Yeah. And producing keeps me busy too. Like I said, I'm lucky that I'm not pigeonholed. Just in hard rock, heavy metal. I can do other bands. I love outlaw country. I like that rootsier guitar sound. I love punk rock. I've done some harder edge bands like the Bronx. So, it's, for me, if it's, guitar-driven rock, that's kind of my thing, and I love being in the studio. I love being able to participate and watch the creative process.
Yeah, and I'll ask you one last thing. As a Canadian, you worked with one of our one of our Canadian guys, Sean Kelly. How was it working with Sean? I mean, isn't he just one of the greatest guitarists and one of the greatest people you've ever met, right?
And you know what? I'm going to repeat exactly what you just said. He's one of my favorite human beings in the world. Yeah. It's funny. I don't even remember how I met Sean. I mean, I know we worked together on the second Crash Kelly record, and we just kind of grew a friendship. It's a mutual respect. I mean, I really loved Crash Kelly. I loved his band. I loved his guitar playing. His songwriting was right up my alley, and
You did Electric Satisfaction, right?
Exactly.
That was the one.
Okay. But he's been a good friend to me. I mean, I had to go down to South America to some dates, and my drummer and bass player couldn't make it. They had a prior commitment, and Sean picked up the bass and played bass for me. When he's an incredible guitar player. Yeah.
I mean, he's absolutely fantastic, and he started a new band with the old Fraley Comets guys called 4x8, and they're going to do some dates.
I'm hip to it.
he's anyway. So that's great. What should we plug? Is there a Twitter? Is there a Facebook? Is there a
Yes. So my main website is just gilbyclarke.com.
Okay.
If I have a gig that is officially booked, it's on there.
Okay.
I have a Gilby Clarke fan page on Facebook. I have Twitter. I have Instagram is kind of what I'm really into. I dig taking the pictures, and it kind of goes to Twitter and Facebook at the same time.
Right.
Which is kind of fun.
You can feed everything.
Sometimes it's Gilby Clarke, sometimes it's Gilby GTR.
Okay.
So between those two, I'm on everything.
You're on everything. And are you going out with anybody other than with yourself? I mean, are you joining Heart or anybody else for the summer? No, you're
No, not right now. I did the Heart tour. I did my time with the MC5.
Okay.
I did Nancy Sinatra. It was like 5 years I was in her band making records and touring. That was great. With Clem Burke from Blondie, that was awesome.
Wow. Okay. So,
but we're going to Europe for a couple weeks. Got a couple dates in a festival. That come back and start to tour with Quiet Riot and Faster Pussycat.
Well, great. Well, thank you, Gilby. Always a pleasure.
All right, on anytime. Keep rock and roll alive.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye now.